I've had my PS5 Pro a week now, and in this video I'm going to give you a proper opinion of my first week experience, from the very first moment of receiving the thing and the much derided packaging, how it compares to the original base PS5 and what I think of it overall. So let's start off with a really strange thing, which was a bit weird this morning, because a day or two ago I posted a video about the noise levels of the PS5 Pro versus other models. Now it was quite interesting because the PS5 Pro was exhibiting quite a lot of coil wine, electrical buzzing sound you get on certain games, but this morning on F1 24 at least, it's disappeared completely, like no more coil wine. I don't know if it was like a bedding in period for the PS5 Pro. It had to be used for a certain amount of hours before something just got settled in, but I now play F1 24 and the coil wine has gone completely, and I'll show that in a minute. But yeah, on to the video, and like I say, I'm going to go through every stage of my PS5 Pro experience so far. So the machine turned up, this was the packaging. A lot of people were saying they didn't like the packaging that much. It turned out actually in the video of my unboxing I undone this upside down, which was a bit weird, because what I've done, it's kind of hard to get out without damaging this part. So initial impression of the unboxing wasn't actually that fantastic, because the packaging isn't great. It's suitable, it does the job, but it's nothing fancy. What you've got in the packaging is basically your covers for the various things, the accessories, the controller is on top, and then inside you've got some very basic padding which goes on either side of the machine, but it is adequate. The thing that surprised me at first when I first got it was I was moving it from side to side and I could hear something rattling around, which was not the best start, but that just turned out to be the user manual, so that was not a big deal at all. But yeah, the packaging is plain and simple, to say the least. For some people this would be a good thing, other people will see it as a bad thing, like it is literally those inserts that go either side. It is sufficient protection, and that's what you want. It's got enough absorbency on either side, on top and bottom, for if it gets hit or dropped or anything like that, it should be quite safe, and there's enough movement all round on the packaging to actually keep the machine safe in transport, which is the idea of packaging. This is a personal thing. I would rather have simple, plain but effective packaging rather than something expensive and elaborate. I mean, when you unpack something from expensive packaging, it does obviously feel very nice and it feels very special, but there's no doubt that whoever made that item, they've still charged you for that extra fancy elaborate packaging, and I would rather the money that I've spent on an item go into the actual item itself. So I would rather actually have cheap but effective packaging myself, but that is a personal thing. But yeah, anyway, the box was simple, but it did the job. Right, now onto the machine itself. When I first looked at it, I kind of fell in love with it straight away. I really love the look of it. It looks a lot sleeker than the original base model. So a little bit less depth, which makes it look less chunky. I love the fins, they look really, really nice, and they add an extra touch to the Pro. So first impressions on the Pro, absolutely fantastic. Next up, setup. The setup was something which on previous consoles can be a bit of a pain sometimes, but on the Pro it was really, really straightforward, and it may have been this simple on the PS5 as well. But all I had to do was log into the app on my phone, show the QR code to my phone, and it was done. I logged in, and I was expecting to do other things as well, like have to sign into my YouTube account and link that, but it was all done immediately. It was just literally the easiest thing in the world, so really impressed by the setup. So next up, let's talk about some games. Let's talk about PS5 games first, and the ones that I've played, and was I impressed by them versus the base PS5. Well, one of the first games I played on the PS5 Pro was F1 24. Now this was a real cut above the base model version. Now, we've all seen those graphical comparisons, things like that on YouTube videos, but nothing can prepare you for what it's actually like in real life. It is so much better than even quality 4K YouTube videos. It's just night and day difference, really. It really is a big difference, to the point where after I'd played this for like 3 days, give or take, for 1 or 2 hours a day, say, on the PS5 Pro, I went back to the base version of the same game, and I couldn't really play it because it just looked wrong, for want of a better word, because I got so used to that much more realistic lighting, because I play it in the quality mode, 60 frames a second with the 3 types of ray tracing, and that gives you such a more realistic impression of light that when you go back to the base version, it just looked wrong, and it was like, couldn't really play it anymore. Just like, no, I can't do this. I'm missing out on too much from the Pro version. But that's not knocking the base version, because if you hadn't experienced the Pro version, you wouldn't know what you're missing to a certain degree, and you still think it is completely fine, and it is. So it is what it is. But if you've played the PS5 Pro version of F1 24 for any length of time, it really is a cut above the base PS5 version. Now, the next game that got quite a lot of attention from me on the PS5 Pro was Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. Now, this game has been slightly misunderstood in some ways, I think, because I've seen some videos where people were comparing the graphics versus the PS5 base model and saying they can't really see any difference. And that's because there's not a lot of difference in the graphics on a side-by-side comparison, because you're not looking for sharpness and in somewhat actual graphical detail. There's other things which make the remastered version on the PS5 Pro different from the PS5 base model. And that is the fact that on the Pro version, you get the quality mode of the base PS5, but in 60 frames a second. But it is only 30 frames a second on the base PS5. And the other thing you get a lot of going on the Pro as well, which isn't in the base version, is a lot of dynamic stuff going on in the game world. There's grass that's moving, there's a thing that's moving. The game looks much more alive on the PS5 Pro than it does versus the base model, and that is, for me, the main difference. I mean, Horizon Forbidden West is a different story altogether. That is much more noticeably better on the PS5 Pro than it is on the base version versus Horizon Zero Dawn. But like I say, on Horizon Zero Dawn, the thing that's mainly different is the 60 frames a second versus 30 frames a second in quality mode, and the fact you've got a more dynamic, more alive looking game world. So overall, I'd say I wasn't exactly blown away by Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered on the PS5 Pro, but it was definitely an improvement over the base model. The next thing I've done was fire up a PS4 game using a PS5 Pro feature called Game Boost, which apparently enhances a PS4 game. So I didn't really know what to expect, but nothing prepared me for what happened next. I fired up Star Wars Battlefront 2, a pretty old PS4 game, and my goodness, it was like a different game on the PS5 Pro. I'm not even kidding. I've done a video on this earlier, but the resolution just seemed to just jump through the roof, like far better than what it was before. It's as if the whole game had been given a polish. It was almost like it was dusty, with like a veil over it before, and someone's given it some magic spray and given it a good old polish, and it just looks so much better than what it did before. It was absolutely stunning. I was blown away by this. This, for me, was like a real surprise, because, like I say, I didn't know what to expect from Game Boost. But yeah, Star Wars Battlefront 2, played that, looks absolutely fantastic. The only thing I'd say about Game Boost is that it is a little bit hit and miss on which game you try. 8,500 games apparently are affected or enhanced by Game Boost, but it is, like I say, a bit hit and miss on how much they are improved by Game Boost. Like, I may have started off really good with Star Wars Battlefront 2 because it looks absolutely fantastic. And I put on one or two others and they just looked like not much different, to be honest. And other ones kind of, yep, you could see an improvement, but it wasn't anywhere near as much as Battlefront 2. So Game Boost still a really, really great feature, which I was really surprised by. The next Pro Enhanced game I played was Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. This was pretty impressive too. It just looked like there was a bit more going on the screen. It looked a bit cleaner than before. It just seemed to play that much better. So really impressed by that at the same time. The main reason a lot of people bought a PS5 Pro were for those PS5 Pro enhanced games. There's many announced now. I think it's well over 100 now, which is really, really good. And a lot of people were only expecting to see the difference on the PS5 Pro when playing a PS5 Pro enhanced game. So when I fired up a normal PS5 game which wasn't Pro enhanced, like Tekken 8 for example, I was really surprised to see a difference in the graphics. And the reason is that extra CPU power, it's not a huge jump, it's about like 10% difference in a lot of games, but Tekken 8 for example, just the resolution has been bumped up. There's a lot of people claiming that it hasn't at all, it's a placebo effect and stuff like that, but I think these are people that haven't actually seen it with their own eyes and things like that. I've played it on a 65-inch telly, on my Pro. I can compare it directly with a base version, and I've actually done a blind test where I didn't actually know which version was playing, and I've got it right every single time, so I know it is real. And the resolution, once you've seen it, is very, very clear. It's just a much better. Again, the image, a bit like the Battlefront 2 example I said earlier on Game Boost, looks like it's just been given a polish, like a bit of a clean. It just looks that much better overall. On other games, it's not the resolution which has been affected by the extra CPU strength. It's things like the frames per second may have been increased in certain games. But yeah, really loving the fact that it seems like pretty much all PS5 games, not just Pro Enhanced games, are getting a Pro boost from the extra power. And now something a little bit strange. A day or two ago, I done a sound test because I noticed that my PS5 Pro was a lot louder than my base PS5. Not only in the fan noise on certain games, but also on the Coil Wine. It seemed, that electrical buzzing noise, it seemed much more noticeable. But I put it on today, and the Coil Wine has just vanished. I don't know what's happened, but it's just gone. Really, really strange. I don't know if the PS5 has got like a bedding in period where after you've used it a certain amount of time, components get settled in or something, but I don't know. Put it on this morning. Normally, this game you'd be hearing that Coil Wine already. I'm sitting right next to the next to the machine. It would be really noticeable normally. Even if I fired up a game, when we get to the game itself, the microphone would easily pick it up from there. It's on high sensitivity at the moment, this microphone, so it will pick up all the sound, and the fan noise is quieter as well. It's like something's happened. It's like my PS5 Pro has noticed. I sort of was saying about the sound the other day on a video, and it's kind of got its act together and decided to be quiet. I have no idea, but something has happened. But let's go to the F1 world, and when I went to play a game, even in its menu here, you could hear the Coil Wine. It was like that buzzing sound, really, really noticeable. It's gone. No Coil Wine whatsoever. No extra fan noise. The fan is just blowing at a moderate rate. I don't know if there's been in the background update for the PS5 Pro, or the game happened in between that happening. But this would be causing Coil Wine right now, like that buzzing in and out as you change these scenes. But there's nothing. You'd hear it there normally. Tiniest little peak of it there. I don't know if the microphone would have picked up. It was so slight, it was barely noticeable, and I'm like like a foot away from the machine. And now it would definitely be buzzing away on this part, but only a little bit. It was when we go to the pause menu that was really buzzy before, but it's completely gone now. No idea what's going on, but I'm happy for it because that was one thing that kind of irritated me a bit. But that Coil Wine has just vanished, so something else that has really pleased me about the PS5 Pro. Well, so are there any negative things I can think of about the PS5 Pro? Well, only one really. There was one previously which has magically fixed itself, which was that Coil Wine, which is now gone, so that's actually not even a thing anymore, it seems. But the removal of the USB Type A from the front, I find a really, really bit of a bizarre decision from Sony, because it means now we've only got two USB sockets, Type A, on the Pro version of the machine, one less than the base model. I know we've got an extra USB Type C, but more things for me are still USB Type A than Type C. I know maybe they're thinking that, okay, a lot of people use the high-speed one for the PSVR 2, and the second one is the charge cable, but a lot of people just run a charge cable from their laptop or whatever, something like that, to charge it, so you don't have to have a lead dangling across the floor. That's what I do. But the fact you've only got two USBs now, for me, is a bit of a downgrade, which is strange for the Pro version. I mean, like, a lot of people are going to use an external hard drive, which is going to be USB Type A a lot of the time. That's one of them, one of the ports. If you've got using their camera, which is USB Type A, again, by their own design, that's both USB sockets gone. Type A sockets gone. So what happens when you want to plug in a microphone, a headset, a steering wheel, an arcade controller? You got to get an adapter now. Before, you could just plug in things in the front and you were done. Like when I want to use my wheel, that's USB Type A, just plug it in the front of the base model, done. Want to plug in my microphone, done. Want to plug in my arcade joystick, done. Now I have to use a blinking adapter or a USB hub, which I don't want to do because I once had a steering wheel base unit just get fried somehow from using a hub or extension lead, so I'm never doing that again. So that for me, yeah, is a little bit of a downgrade. I would have preferred the Pro model. Why couldn't they have added the extra USB Type C on the front and left USB Type A as well? It is the Pro model after all. So is the PS5 Pro everything I expected? Well, to be honest, it's more than I expected, because Obviously I was expecting things like the 2TB storage, the Wi-Fi 7, the bump up in CPU, those ray tracing effects from Pro Enhanced games and things like that. So on the Pro Enhanced games, they've given me pretty much what I was expecting to see, even though it was actually better in real life when you play it for yourself, like F124 for example. It's really, really good. What I didn't expect was, first of all, game boost to be so spectacular. That really blew me away. And the other thing I didn't expect at all was all PS5 games to get a boost up one way or another, whether it's resolution or just frame rate or a bit of both. But yeah, all PS5 games just look and play that little bit better, which was totally unexpected. So apart from that small gripe about the slightly flimsy packaging, which I can live with, and the slightly irritating USB situation, I absolutely love the PS5 Pro, and it's more than I expected, so very happy indeed. But there's a video. If you enjoyed it, it'd be really cool if you bash that like and subscribe button. It really does help. But most of all, thanks for watching. Catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.